The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation or Stewart Title. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
When it comes to real estate, everything matters. Whether you're a realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title is here to inform, entertain, and inspire you. Host Bill Napick from Stewart Title will talk with guests about what really matters when it comes to owning, buying, and selling real estate. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title starts right now. Here's your host, Bill Napick.
And welcome to the show. We are so glad you joined us. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. This is where America tunes in to hear great real estate talk. Oh yeah, and sometimes lifestyle. All the time we have interesting people. So you're going to enjoy the show. We think we've designed it to entertain, inform, and even inspire. As always, we are brought to you by Stewart Insurance and Risk Management and their president, Tom Carpentier, where you can go to stewart.com. All over the United States, we offer home, auto, all kinds of insurance. And now we have a very special guest today. He is an expert, to say the least. He is Alexander Garvin. He is an American urban planner, educator, and author. He lives in New York City and practices at AGA Public Realm Strategist. He has so many credentials. He's also an author and a professor at Yale. Let's welcome Alexander Garvin. Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All the way from New York City. Well, we appreciate it. Tell people about your specialty and what you do as it relates to cities. You have a particular expertise in cities, right?
Yes. I started my life as an architect. I found that I was much more interested in cities. I read a book called Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs. It changed my life. I started taking planning courses, and I ended up with 2 degrees. 2 graduate degrees, one in architecture, one in planning. And then I went to work for Philip Johnson. It was my first job. And I quit. And he told me, you should be working somewhere else. And I said, why? He said, you should be doing much more important things than I have in my office. And I ended up in the city government in New York. I was the deputy housing commissioner. I was in charge of all planning in New York City. And then I went into the real estate business. And I did that for 15 years. And then I was appointed to the Planning Commission by Mayor Giuliani. And I served 2 terms on the Planning Commission. While I was doing all of that, I taught at Yale, where I still teach. It's my 50th year teaching at Yale.
Congratulations.
And my company does real estate consulting and planning consulting. And I've had a fascinating time doing it. One of the more interesting things I did is be in charge of rebuilding the World Trade Center the first 15 months after it was demolished. The most important thing that I do is inspire people, not just my students, but I've written a series of books, the latest of which is 2 weeks out. It's called What Makes a Great City, and it covers cities in Europe, the United States. Most popular of my books is called The American City, What Works, What Doesn't. It's now in its 3rd edition. I've written a book called The Planning Game, which is about how you make change in cities, several books on parks. So I have a lot of experience.
That is fascinating. And also, when we think about cities, and as you mentioned, Europe and certainly New York City, of all the cities, and here we are in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city, they say, but you spent so much time and live in New York City. That is one of the most unique places in the world, isn't it?
Every city is unique. Houston isn't like San Francisco or Paris. It has its own characteristics. And I go around from city to city to see how they work and what's going on. And I learn every time. I started coming to Houston in 1968. And I have been looking at Post Oak Boulevard since then and photographing it and going downtown and looking at what was here. It's a very different place today. New York City is also a very different place. You may not remember, but in 1968, people thought cities were a thing of the past. They were all dying. Cities weren't going to work. And New York City was in fiscal collapse in the mid-1960s. We almost went bankrupt in 1975. Now we won't go bankrupt. We're doing very well.
That's fascinating. Well, let me ask you about, as you mentioned, Post Oak Boulevard. In fact, when I got to Houston in 1983, that's one of the first things I did for some reason. I was drawn to Post Oak Boulevard, and I took my camera and went down and took pictures of the buildings there at the time, which look so modern and are still holding up very well. So what is it about Post Oak Boulevard that drew you to that area?
Well, when I came here in 1968, there was virtually nothing here. And I took photographs, and they are in my new book, What Makes a Great City. And you can see a photograph I took in 1974 with no live oak and the Galleria standing there naked without anything around it. And then you'll see another photograph in the book 20 years later with things that have grown in after them. And I now have pictures that I took a year ago. I've been coming back and looking at it, and it has grown from just having the Galleria and Sakowitz and some other stores into being what I think is going to be the grandest boulevard in the United States. But you've got to wait a couple of years until it's all finished. It's being widened, as you know, and new trees being added, and I think it's going to be a very different place 20 years from now.
No doubt. Also, give us an idea, as we mentioned, as you look at the cities around the world, New York City, Houston, here in the United States, when you go to a new city, Alex, let's say, what are some of the things as a student and a teacher of what makes cities tick and trends and so forth? What are the things that you notice, like as soon as you land or walk about the city? What are the things that stand out to you?
It depends. A month ago, I went for the first time to Budapest, and I checked into my hotel, and the first thing I did was to go out walking. Whenever I go to a new city, that's what I do first. I tell the story in What Makes a Great City of going to Bilbao, where I had heard that the Guggenheim Museum had changed the city. And I checked into my hotel, and I walked out, and there's a promenade along the river there. Within 5 minutes, I knew the Guggenheim Museum hadn't changed Bilbao. It was something else. And I learned what it was and why Bilbao has become a great city. The Guggenheim certainly helped. I'm not saying it had no role, but there were many things that they did. And those are the kinds of stories that I tell in the book. It also is how I look at a city. So I walked for 4 days in Budapest, every day, 6 to 8 hours. Rich neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, commercial streets, parks. That's the way I learn about a city.
In any city, boy, there are so many elements. I'm thinking about it myself. You're saying walking about, you see the cars, the people, the restaurants, the architecture. Yeah. There's just so many things to take in.
Well, when I do my work, however, I go up in a helicopter. And I can see things from the helicopter that you can't see on foot. I worked on the Beltline in Atlanta. That's 2004. And I went up in the helicopter and I saw a quarry. And that quarry I thought would make a great park. And I proposed to my client, the Trust for Public Land, a park system that is now being built, the Beltline, and that the quarry be one of the new parks which would be on it. And TPL actually bought it and transferred it to the city of Atlanta. It's becoming the largest park in the city of Atlanta. So you can do things from a helicopter that you can't do on foot.
And boy, you have a great view, no doubt about that. Also, let's say with the last minute or so in this segment, Alex, tell people a little bit more about the book, What Makes a Great City, and how can people get the book?
You can get it on Amazon. That's the easiest place to get it, at a discount probably as well. But it's in all the bookstores. I was told that somebody just saw it in Seattle in a bookstore yesterday. So, and it's 2 weeks old.
Very exciting. And I'll tell you what, just that title alone, What Makes a Great City, that should pull people in right there.
It's not about great cities per se. It's about what makes a great city. So the book says people make a great city. So the question you have to answer is, how do you attract them and keep them coming? And my answer, and that's what the book is about, a great public realm. That's streets and squares and parks. It's what matters to everybody. It's what we use every day in common with everybody else in the city.
Also, let's tell people your website so they can go to that and learn more.
It's Alex Garvin, one word, AlexGarvin.net, and that will get you the website.
Very nice. Alexander Garvin. Stay with us. We are going to take a short break and come right back with even more.
Stewart Title has been serving Texas for over 120 years. A Texas treasure, Stewart Title's longevity is a testimony to superior service, innovation, and knowing what their customers want. Recent surveys show that 92% of respondents want secure online tracking tools to help them during the closing process. Stewart Title offers the most robust and secure system to track transactions online available today. To learn more, contact Stewart Title at one of their many offices around the city. Stewart Title, online at stewart.com. That's STEWART.com.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. The show marches on, and of course we have Professor Alexander Garvin. We're talking about cities. In addition, we are joined by the one and only Mr. Uptown, Bob Ethington. He's the Director of Research and Economic Development at the Boulevard Project Liaison as well. Uptown Houston. All that said, gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. It's good to be here.
Bob, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well.
It's great.
We got Alex in with us today. He's getting ready to do some roundtable discussions and lecture series for the Kinder Institute, and it's great to have him here. He's become a good friend.
Well, Post Oak Uptown is always exciting and shines, but now that you have Alex here, it's going to be even better these next couple of days, right?
It really is. It's kind of a fun story how Alex and I met. I was giving a presentation at the River Oaks Country Club to one of the groups that meets there, and a gentleman came up to me after the presentation and said, "Hey, I've got a friend that's going to want to talk to you." I said, "Okay," and gave him my business card, and then a couple of days later, a man by the name of Alexander Garvin called and he said, "Hey, I'm coming into Houston and I want to walk Post Oak Boulevard." And I have to tell you, I've never, ever had anyone ask me to walk Post Oak Boulevard with him. So I said, "Okay." And we met on a Saturday morning. We met on the south end where Richmond is, and we walked the entire boulevard. As we're doing that, I'm explaining the development that's going on, what we're going to be doing with the boulevard, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, Alex is telling me his story as well. And I find out Alex has been watching this boulevard for 40 years, and he has sent me pictures that he took personally from back then to show me that he actually has been aware of this boulevard and watching it that long. And he, in his expertise, said something that I couldn't have paid him to say, and that is that he truly believed that when we finish this project, that it was going to become one of the, if not the, grandest boulevards in the United States. And I asked him, and this is the quote, I said, may I quote you on that? And he said, absolutely. So we've become good friends since then, and his new book, What Makes a Great City, one of the public realm projects that he has at the end of the city, that's kind of one of the premier projects in the United States and internationally, is in there. So it's great to have him here.
And I say exactly that in the book, by the way.
That is awesome. Well, Post Oak, that is a wonderful place. And as you study cities and you, what is it that, I mean, you just love cities, right?
Yes.
Well, tell us, when we think about turning the clock, and Bob said about when Post Oak is completed, but give us an idea.
It will never be completed.
Oh, okay.
You have to understand.
It's always developing.
Yes.
Yes.
And the trick to keeping the city great is to keep investing in it and keep improving it. And what has been happening with Post Oak Boulevard, when I first came, it was a roadway. And then it had some trees. And then it finally got the arches. And it got the circles that say where the streets are. And it started to, you have been investing in this street for all the time that I've been coming to it. And it's been getting better and better. And now that it's going to be widened to 136 feet, an additional live oak put in, and a bus down the middle, it's going to change everything.
And when we talk about it, it will always evolve. But let's say, going back to the idea, you guys were talking about photographs. Let's say, Alex, we took a snapshot. If you were to speculate, a snapshot of Post Oak Boulevard, Uptown, say, I don't know, 5 years from now, how do you picture it appearing?
Well, since I was here the last time, which was about a year ago, you have 3 new buildings on the Skyline that were not there. 2 of them by an architect where one of my students works in New Haven by Picard. amazing. Well, there's a lot of territory along Post Oak Boulevard with one-story buildings on it. They're going to be gone. And instead, you're going to have more tall buildings, and there's going to be more retail at the base of them, and you're going to begin to look like, and I'll pick the other great shopping street in America, North Michigan Avenue. You're going to look like that. Well, North Michigan Avenue, before they put the bridge in, connecting the loop with the Gold Coast, didn't have anything like that. By the way, I tell that story also in the book. It's a very important part of it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for us as far as the Uptown Management District is, if you want to get right down to it, we build streets. We don't build the development, but if we can create the realm,
Public realm.
this public realm that can be a magnet that draws developers and draws investors to the area, we feel like that we've done, our responsibility. And the Boulevard, taking it from where it is and where it's going to be, and creating this great pedestrian, energetic space, creating the shading that's going to go all the way from Richmond all the way up to 610, creating the feel of Uptown, not just from San Felipe to Westheimer, which is what people think of typically when they think of Uptown, especially during the Christmas season. Those are where the Christmas trees are. That look and feel is not only going to look even more spectacular, it's going to stretch all the way up to 610, all the way down to Richmond. We're creating a whole new public realm that people will be drawn to and that they will be able to enjoy as a destination, and not simply as a place to go work or simply as a place to live. It will have a true mixed-use energy about it that we're very excited about.
Because what's going to happen is the people that work in one of the office buildings or in one of the stores are going to want to go for lunch somewhere. And they'll hop on the bus and go to the Galleria. People who live in the condominiums along Post Oak are going to go to dinner. They're going to leave their car at home. And the street is going to become far more interesting. And if you look at the cities where they have done this, say Denver, on 16th Street, there is a free bus that goes up and down 16th Street. People park, they go to work. At lunchtime or at happy hour, they're on the bus going to wherever it is that they're going. And you're going to have the same thing happen. Only your street is going to be almost twice as wide as 16th Street in Denver, which is quite an achievement. And it's going to be shaded because of the live oak. 6 rows, am I right?
7.
7 rows of live oak. It's a very different place from the one I saw when I came in 1968 without any trees on it.
It's fascinating.
And the beauty of the bus system operationally is it will operate more like a light rail. So we always say it's kind of like light rail on rubber tires, so we don't have to lay tracks, we don't have to have electrical wires, none of that. But operationally, at 6-minute headways, you have these 20, 30-second dwell times, which means when you go to a bus stop, these newly designed bus stops, within 20 to 30 seconds, you load and unload people, and then it comes by every 6 minutes. It will have an announcement system that will tell you bus arrives in 3 minutes. So it will look and feel more like light rail, moving people up and down the boulevard than it will a bus, but it will be a bus on rubber tire.
That sounds great. And Bob, also while we're talking about Post Oak Boulevard, in case people have not seen the documentary recently that you
Yes.
appeared and many others
Yeah.
have appeared on, tell them the title and where they can see that.
Yes, it's called Post Oak Boulevard, A Texas Legacy. And it is on PBS's YouTube channel. So if you just simply search for Post Oak Boulevard, A Texas Legacy, it'll pop up at the first. And it's a PBS's YouTube channel. That was a lot of fun to do.
And it's a lot of fun to watch. In fact, as Alex is talking about the old photographs of when he first came to Post Oak, there's plenty of old
yeah.
photographs where it was just dirt. So that is absolutely fascinating.
That was before it was in the city of Houston, because Houston didn't go out that far.
It was the country, yeah.
Yeah.
I think people will be surprised is that just before I discuss Post Oak, I discuss another city that was also improving its public realm, and I use it as the main example to start that chapter. You will be surprised that it's Paris. And what it is the Place de la République in Paris, and if you've seen the demonstrations because of the terrorists and Charlie Hebdo, they now take place in the largest public area in the city of Paris that was swirling with traffic 10 years ago. And I discovered it by accident. I had walked along the Boulevard, and I had taken photographs of it 10 years earlier. I lived in Paris at one point. And I was walking because I wanted to go along the entire route. And I came to it. It's not the same. It's an amazing place. They even have a toy lending library for kids. The swirling traffic around the sculpture is gone, and so they can have literally thousands of people demonstrating in this place that didn't exist before. The space was there. Paris made a major improvement in its public realm. Mm-hmm. So that's the first example. The second one is Houston.
Yeah.
And I think I get a great kick out of comparing Houston to Paris. My friends in New York will be outraged.
And so, yeah, for the Post Oak Boulevard, that public realm, we feel like it's not just the transit that we're bringing in that's going to be a people mover, but it is the widened public sidewalks. It is the new pedestrian lighting system. It is the live oaks that are going to create this great corridor up and down the boulevard. We're very excited about what that is going to be for the city of Houston.
And I'm very excited to live a mile from your office. I love that. And I'm also, as we talk, as you mentioned, the Christmas event with the Thanksgiving and the lights, I walked to that. I am so excited about it. But the other thing, other than the wonders and the improvements that are coming, the transportation, the widening, and the wonderful businesses, restaurants, and everything else, the other thing that may not be obvious is that Post Oak Uptown is you can get to anywhere from there. So if you live and work there, boy, you can go to Kingwood in a flash, depending on traffic.
Right.
Or you can go to Clear Lake. But it is so nice to live with such access to everywhere around.
And that actually is a great point, because this system is actually a regional connector. So we'll be building a transit center on the south side. We're going to be utilizing the Northwest Transit Center on the north side. And so those connect to the regional system that Metro runs with their Park and Ride Express systems from 290, from I-10, from 59, and is a great transit connector for the city of Houston there on the entire west side.
And changing gears a little bit, Professor Alexander Garvin, I love just saying that. Tell us about Yale, and tell us about the things that you teach, and certainly that would take hours and hours, but give us an idea of one of your classes when you go and teach at Yale. What are some of the things, the most popular courses, if you have a selection of courses? What do people love about it?
I teach 3 different courses. I've been teaching at Yale for 50 years. That's a long time. And yesterday I had my undergraduate seminar with 14 students, 4 of whom are from Texas, 2 of whom are from Houston, and I was able to bring up Post Oak Boulevard during the course of the conversation. But what we were trying to do is to figure out why their cities exist, what started them. And they are involved in a whole semester where every week we talk about a different aspect of their hometown, and they have to create maps and find photographs and figure out at the end, why does Dallas exist? Or why does New York City exist? Or their neighborhood, because New York is too big to do a section of Brooklyn where they live. How did it get to be that way? And I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. I also spend a lot of time trying to improve cities. That is, as a city planner, I work on different projects in different cities that can change them. My favorite example is the Beltline in Atlanta. The park system that the Beltline now represents, and the trail where people are riding bicycles and jogging and rollerblading, is changing the city of Atlanta. It's not going to be remembered 20 years from now because of the highway and the traffic congestion. It's going to be remembered because of a 23-mile loop all the way around downtown that is becoming the Beltline.
We're talking with Alexander Garvin and Bob Ethington. And, of course, Alexander, your newest book is What Makes a Great City, but I also like the book that came before that, The American City, What Works, What Doesn't Work. So give us a quick bullet point or two about in the book, An American City, what works, what doesn't work, what works, and what doesn't
I think
work.
you need to understand 6 things. The first and the most important, and for real estate people, you'll know what I'm talking about, market. There has to be a market there. If the market doesn't exist, it won't work. The second thing is location. Notice I am not like the real estate people who say location, location, location. Most people don't even know what location means. Is it proximity to something else? Is it the characteristics of the land? You know, if you're on a swamp, the location may be wonderful, but it's a lousy place to live. You may be right near something important. The third thing is design. I'm a trained designer. You can design something that flops because you don't understand how it's going to be used. The fourth thing is finance. You've got to be able to pay for it. You must know how you're going to get the money to pay for it. The fifth thing is time. That's not just the time it takes to create it, it's also the time in which you are spending there. So that Bob has been talking about what it's going to be like to go along Post Oak Boulevard for a reason. And finally, the most important of all, entrepreneurship. Somebody has to make it happen. That somebody can be a private developer. It can be a nonprofit entity like Uptown Houston. It can be a university. But you need somebody in charge. And it also can be the city government.
I have to ask, though, what doesn't work then? Give us a few of those bullet points.
If any of those 6 things isn't there, it doesn't work. Without the entrepreneur, it doesn't happen. Without the money, it doesn't happen. If the design is lousy, it's not going to work. It's not just location.
Well, thank you, Professor, and thank you, Bob. We're going to come right back. You are listening to Real Estate Matters with Stuart Title. Your host, Bill Napick. Fascinating as we think about cities, the city of Houston, Post Oak, and beyond. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Most people don't know that Stewart offers business, home, and auto insurance. In fact, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management has been doing that and more for over 10 years. And they partner with many leading insurance companies to offer great rates. They're a national insurance agency operating in all 50 states, delivering a broad range of insurance products. Whether you need a home insurance quote for a client's home closing or your own insurance needs, you can count on them. Call 866-845-4676. That's 866-845-4676. Stewart Insurance and Risk Management is here to help.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stuart Title. We're talking cities, Houston, Texas, and beyond with 2 experts right here, Professor Alexander Garvin and the one and only Bob Ethington with Uptown Houston. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Let's talk more about cities, huh, Bob?
Yeah, let's do that.
Alex?
Yeah, one thing that we were discussing during the break that I thought was fascinating was when Alex and I first connected up, he was telling me about the writing of the book, What Makes a Great City, and how he was going to have Post Oak Boulevard in the chapter about boulevards and how important they are to the life of a city. And then later on, he calls me and he tells me, well, I just want you to know that Post Oak Boulevard is no longer going to be in that chapter. And I have to tell you, I was disappointed until he said, it's because I've rearranged the book and the final chapter is going to be on some of the great public realm projects around the world that I think are going to help redefine that space. And that's where he moved it. And it's great.
What had happened was I had a sandwich, and the meat in the sandwich was a chapter on streets, a chapter on squares, a chapter on parks. And I thought, that's boring. So I took all the subheads and I reorganized the book with the characteristics of a great public realm. It's got to be open to anyone. It's got to have something for everybody. It has to be able to create market demand that is sustained over time so people keep coming. It has to sustain a habitable environment. It must nurture a civil society, and it must provide a framework around which the city can grow. And at the end of the book, I picked 5 current examples, 21st century cities that are doing just that. And they were Paris, Houston, Atlanta, Brooklyn, New York, and Toronto.
Very interesting. And I used to go to Toronto a lot. I enjoyed Toronto. Now, we've used the term public realm, just in case someone wants a clear-cut definition. Let's tell people, what is the public realm?
It's what we use every day. It's what we care about. It's the streets. It's the sidewalks. It's the parks. It's the squares. And then there are places in between that are not exactly a street or a square. If you go into the Galleria, that's a public realm. So it's what matters to all of us. And that's what makes a city great.
Everything around us. The other thing we were talking about when we were talking about buses and moving around, say, the Post Oak area, and that is, to me, one of the things that I enjoy most in a lifestyle is not having to drive. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, people are looking to drive less and enjoy more.
All over the world, this is happening. There are streets that are being converted, so there's more room for pedestrians. We in New York City, and I tell the story in the book, have just changed Times Square. We now have 500,000 people a day who go into Times Square, and the traffic moves faster. And there's more room for pedestrians. It's a very simple thing that happened. Broadway cut across the streets, which are north and south and east and west. So you needed to have 3 traffic signals in a minute. You pedestrianize Broadway, there are no vehicles there. You increase the traffic flow because now the green light is 30 seconds instead of 20. And we have less traffic accidents, and we have more tourists. And I talk about all these sorts of things that make the public realm work better all over the world. It's not just Houston or New York City. It's everywhere. And each city has been trying to do something else, and I talk about it. And some of them have been going on for centuries.
Very interesting. New York City. What do you love about New York City? You've been there a long time. Tell us.
I was born, I grew up in New York City. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I can do anything I want. One year, I had people coming for Christmas dinner. I needed a goose, I needed a gift, and I needed wrapping paper. I walked out of my apartment, and I was back in 25 minutes with all 3. You can't do that in most places.
Well, just the fact that you needed those things sounds incredible. A goose, gift, and wrapping paper. Who doesn't need that, right?
Also, I'm an opera fan. I can go to 2 opera companies in New York at the minimum. I go to concerts. I go to the theater. I spend a lot of time in museums. That's difficult to do in some smaller cities, but we have a lot of that in New York.
Indeed. Now, Alex, are you walking, subway, taxi cabs?
I walk almost everywhere. I use the subway every day. I once had a medical exam at the Mayo Clinic, and the doctor said I was in great shape, and I said, no, I'm not. He said, look at the people in the waiting room there. They're all overweight. I said, well, yeah. He said, you walk everywhere. You're in much better physical shape than any of them. All of us walk. I walk at least a mile or 2 every day, just going shopping.
That is so great.
So really, when you think about it, to be able to provide the space to be able to do that is a quality of life issue. It's not just environmental impact by reducing the amount of cars on the road, but there's a quality of life issue that helps as far as on the health side that people can enjoy being out, walking in a beautiful area and staying healthier than some of their compadres that live in the area that choose not to do so.
It's also a market issue. The millennials, the young people that I teach at Yale, don't want to live by themselves in a single-family house in the suburbs. They want to have fun, and they can't do that where there aren't other people and places to do it. So what you're finding is whole neighborhoods around the country that are being brought back by people who want to live in places that they can walk around in. You can go to Northern Liberties in Philadelphia. You can go to the Third Ward in Milwaukee. Go to the downtown Bank District in Los Angeles. These are all places where young people are moving in, which have bars and theaters and restaurants and places they can hang out. And that you need to be able to populate the public realm. Because if there's nothing for them to do, they're not going to be on the street.
And that's something that when we look at the Uptown area, the number one research spot for residential apartments and condominiums that people are searching for is the Uptown area. Zillow came out with that. It, it's Uptown is younging up. In fact, when I do demographic studies on it, the biggest demographic group in the Uptown area are the millennials.
Also, as we proceed, I want to tell people the website, Alex Garvin, that's AlexGarvin.net, and they could find out more information on all your books and even more, right, Alex?
Yes, they can see my biography. They can see the sorts of projects that we've done. And I think it's a pretty easy place to find out how you can improve cities.
And as you're talking about walking around New York, doing all the things, getting the goose and everything else, I also love, and I'm from Pennsylvania, so I love a place with 4 seasons because you can enjoy almost all 4, right?
We used to be able to go to one of the great restaurants of all time called the Four Seasons. Unfortunately, the owner had to give it up, and we're losing one of the great places designed by Philip Johnson. I know you have a lot of his buildings. Pennzoil is my favorite building in Houston.
All right.
He designed that.
Well, very nice. We are talking with Alex Garvin and Bob Ethington. Bob is with Uptown Houston, and Alex is going to come right back in a little bit. We're going to talk insurance. Right now, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
If you've been in the real estate industry for any length of time, you know unexpected and costly events can happen. Safeguard yourself against the unexpected with Real Estate Errors and Omissions Insurance, or E&O, through Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. Not all E&O insurance policies are created equal. How confident are you that your current E&O policy fully protects you? Stewart Insurance and Risk Management offers expertise in the real estate industry and tailors your coverage to correctly manage your risk. With Stewart Insurance and Risk Management, facing the unexpected just became a lot easier. Safeguard your future with real estate E&O insurance through Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. Call today at 866-845-4676. That's 866-845-4676. Or email us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com to request tailored insurance options for you and your business.
All right, test 1 2 1 2. Testing, good sound.
All right. Hello. This is. Oh, I usually don't talk that loud, right? You're right. I saw you flinch a little bit.
You know this guy.
So this will be me.
welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stuart Tuttle. Boy, what a show. We're talking cities, and we're even going to talk insurance. We're talking about what Alexander Garvin's book, What Makes a City Great. Hey, Brittany Taggart makes insurance great. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill. Thank you so much. What a great compliment.
You know, I was thinking that the whole time. Stewart Insurance and Risk Management, Stewart.com. It's too easy, isn't it, Brittany?
It is. It really is. And I love the parallel of what we're talking about today of what makes a great city. And first I heard people. And it's the same thing with business. We have great people at Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. They're irreplaceable. And it's about building your business and continuing to invest back in it so you can make sure you're attracting the right people to foster the culture that you really want to create. And then for us, that's about educating everybody about insurance. What is the proper insurance? What do you need for your particular situation? So that's really what we do at Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. Well,
and also let's broaden the basics there in case someone's tuning in. Regular listeners know that you offer home, auto, all kinds of insurance. But tell people, Brittany, if home and auto, of course, there's even a bigger menu than that. You also help people with commercial insurance. We're talking about stores and flower shops and restaurants. Those all need to be insured, right? You do it.
That's right. So we are owned by Stewart Title. We're Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. We are an insurance broker, meaning we have several insurance companies that we work with to provide our clients with the correct insurance that they need. Being owned by Stewart Title, we operate mainly within the real estate industry. So we help home buyers every single day, those who are closing on homes, those who are working with real estate professionals to find their perfect home. We work to properly insure them. And then on the flip side, we work with everyone who's involved in the real estate industry. So that's title agents, real estate brokers, lenders. We work to provide them the correct insurance they need to operate properly insured in the real estate industry.
And it's interesting as we think of the public realm, the atmosphere of any given place, the people walking around, the buildings, people investing in businesses and so forth. It's just it's a given. It's there behind us because we are there to manage risk at Stewart Insurance and Risk Management because you just never know what's going to happen in any of the areas we go, and even when we're in our cars, right?
That's exactly right. So we're there basically to make sure that you are properly insured. A lot of times we talk about this a lot. You may not know exactly what is in your insurance, and that's okay. You just need to make sure that you're working with a professional that does know what your insurance has and knows how to properly insure you. So again, that's really what we go after every single day. We wake up to make sure that we properly insure people better than anyone else can. So we're going to make it quick. We're going to make sure that you're educated on it, that you know what you're covered for, what you're not covered for. And then we just have fun doing it. We hope that it's just the best time, the best encounter that you've had with insurance in your lifetime. That's really what we work towards.
The best encounter. And I've got something new for you, Brittany. I just thought about as we're talking to the gentleman here about New York City, all the buildings in Uptown. You guys are like the insurance concierge because all these big buildings have a concierge to help people, right? You are like their personal insurance concierge where you offer great service and they can call you and ask as many questions as they want.
I love it. I'm going to start using it. We're the concierge for insurance. There we go.
No doubt about it.
All the great ideas, Bill.
Well,
you know, on the team.
Sometimes they happen when we're thinking about things like this and we're on the show and we have the pressure to say important and great things and inspiring and even sometimes entertaining. In the meantime, also tell them the website again, Brittany.
So all you have to do is go to Stewart.com. We have insurance tab right there, and you can see our full menu, both personal insurance, or if you operate again in the real estate industry, you can see what commercial insurance you may need.
And when they go on the tab, it's nicely organized, personal and commercial, so it's really done well. And I also encourage people all the time that you don't need to wait till your car or home or other type of insurance, and of course broker E&O, until it's time for a renewal, right? It's always a good time to make sure that you are being covered properly without too much coverage, but with the right amount of coverage.
Correct. Yeah, you can talk to your agent at any point in the year. If something changes in your life, definitely reach out to the agent that you're using or give us a call. Our number is 866-845-4676. And that number will always get you to a real live person. So we will be able to help you as soon as you call us.
Your insurance concierge, no doubt about it. Let's bring the guys back. Brittany, here they are once again, Professor Alex Garvin and Bob Ethington. Gentlemen, always exciting. So what else? Give us an idea. Alex, first of all, here we are finishing up the year. I'm already excited now thinking about Christmas and Thanksgiving around Uptown. I'll take my walk down there, look at the fireworks. But give us an idea in your life, your projects, what lies ahead, say for 2017.
I don't think anybody knows, but in my life,
In
I
your
do.
life.
I am going to take a trip over New Year's to Egypt. I have never been to Egypt. I know that in the spring, I am going to go to Granada and Cordoba in Spain, and maybe also to Hong Kong. I'm taking the spring off for the first time in 50 years of teaching. I am not teaching at all in the spring, so I'm going to do traveling. In addition, I'm obviously going to write some more books and come to different places and talk about how you make a great city.
That is so exciting. Also, I want to backtrack a little bit. Early on in the show, you mentioned about in your career you were involved in real estate. And this is a real estate show, let's talk a little bit about that and some of the insights and things that you've learned in that experience.
The first thing is you talked about risk management.
Oh.
The most important thing in real estate is to minimize the downside risk. It is not about making money, which everybody thinks it is. It's about minimizing the risks. I was, for 15 years, in a very specific business. I was buying rental apartment buildings in New York City and converting them to cooperatives, selling them to the tenants. We have a rent regulatory system in New York which artificially depresses the prices. If you have the building to sell to the tenants, you can make a great deal of money on the difference between the two, and that was my business. I also, at one point, because I had to manage these buildings, managed 1,000 apartments. So I know about everything from having salt for the snow to making sure that you go to make a deal with the union that's complaining about the regulations that had not been enforced. It's a very different way of dealing with real estate.
While I'm reflecting, too, in talking with you this past time, you've done so many things. It's incredible. An architect, author, in the real estate, writing, but it's incredible, and world traveler.
And you left out the 20 years I worked for the city of New York.
20 years?
Yes, I
working
had.
for the city.
I was in 5 different administrations doing different things. I was the Deputy Housing Commissioner of the city of New York. I've been a member of the Planning Commission twice for 5-year terms. I care very much about how you make a great city.
And Yale professor, no doubt about that. Give us an idea, as you've done so many things successfully, tell people, no matter what they do, Alex, give them some of the core principles of success that have served you well in all these many facets of your life.
Most important thing is always to tell the truth. When I was the Deputy Housing Commissioner, we were nearly bankrupt in New York. The federal government had gone out of the housing business. You may recall it was the Nixon administration. And I went to the South Bronx, and my staff told me I couldn't tell them, I couldn't go there. I said, I work for these people. And they said, but you have nothing to offer them. I said, I understand that. So I came, and I made my presentation, and somebody, of course, asked me, Commissioner Garvin, what are you going to be able to do for us? And I gulped, and I said, we don't have any money. The federal government is out of the housing business. I can't do anything. There was a 10-second pause, and I got a standing ovation because I told the truth.
That will serve everybody well all the time. Bob, give us an idea as we think of Uptown Houston, end of the year, looking at 2017. What are some of the things you want people to know about?
2017 will be right in the middle of the reconstruction of Post Oak Boulevard. We'll be moving along. It's going to be exciting. We will finish that project by the end of 2018, and that's when we're going to be able to kind of restore that public space to the citizens of Houston and all of the international visitors that come here. That's really our primary focus. During that same time period, we know that we are still in discussions periodically with different developers that are interested in coming into the area, and so we discuss those things. Even at this time, people that are interested in residential or hotel or retail that are wanting to become a part of this very special public space that we call Post Oak Boulevard.
And also we'll remind people, Post Oak Boulevard, A Texas Legacy. Look it up on YouTube. You'll see Bob right there, along with so many other distinguished people on the show. In the meantime, also, Bob, tell people your website.
Our website is uptown-houston.com. Very easy to remember, uptown-houston.com.
And also, Post Oak Boulevard, I'm a huge fan. There's so many great things to see, so many great vantage points, whether you're, like Alex was saying, in a helicopter. I haven't done that yet, but in a helicopter as you walk around. But I will tell people one of the greatest vantage points, and you know what I'm going to say, I think
do.
it is on your 17th floor. That conference room you guys have is incredible. It is like the front of the Titanic, in that it as far as the shape of it goes, and you can see all around for miles. It is
They have a
spectacular.
better place on their roof. You can see even more.
First of all, I want to make sure
I
that we
wanna go on the
understand
roof.
Titanic is just generally speaking.
No, you know what I'm saying.
I do indeed.
I'm thinking of
I
that,
do
that
indeed.
scene where they're
and
standing
it
out
is
in
easy
front.
to stand there kind of at the apex and think that you're able to see the whole world of Houston. And I did take Alex up on the roof one day that the management was very kind to allow him to do so in order to take pictures as he continues to chronicle what's going on in Uptown.
And what I saw, and it has to do with the future, Uptown is the 17th largest business district in the United States.
Wow.
I predict that within 10 years, that's after 2017, but in 2027, it's going to be even bigger, and it's going to be 16 or 15 or 14. And it's going to be the star, and people are going to know Uptown in a way that they don't at the moment.
Well, I can't wait to read the book, What Makes a Great City, Alexander Garvin. Check it out. You got to. In the meantime, his other books are incredible, too.
I've written a book called The Planning Game. I've written a book called The American City, What Works, What Doesn't. I've written 3 books on parks, which is a special interest of mine. And The Planning Game started because I had to teach planning at Yale. In my second class, I was going to teach about shopping centers, and I made this table, the lender, the developer, the prime tenant, the small stores, the neighborhood representative. And I thought, gee, this is a bore. What can I make it interesting? Yale students are not going to want to see this table. And I decided we'd design a shopping center. And so I made roles, and I made it a game. I now teach this game. It's currently called the Georgia Mall Wars, and it takes place on a site where I actually worked in suburban Atlanta, where they were going to put in a shopping mall. And so the planning game became the idea. I went into the planning game myself as a planner, and I found it was very different. I couldn't control the roles. I couldn't manage the time. I had to figure out how to make things happen. I'm in the change business. So I began to understand. Then I wrote a book called The Planning Game, which explains how Paris, New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago were changed by major figures.
It is alexgarvin.net. I asked you about Post Oak, but really quickly, as we're running out of time, we look ahead. Let's take a snapshot of New York City 5-10 years from now. Have you thought about that? What's that going to look like?
Well, we are about to invest in streetcars. You already have light rail in Houston. We don't in New York. We used to have trolleys, but we are going to be investing in that. We are going to improve the access to our airports. There's a great deal that needs to be done. I could go on and on and on about the projects that we need to do. It's going to be very difficult because we have to find the money. But of course, we have a budget which is larger than the gross national product of all but 10 countries in the world. So we'll find the money for it.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Garvin at alexgarvin.net. And Bob, tell people your website one more time.
Yeah, the website is uptown-houston.com.
And certainly a great time of year, as I'm already thinking. We got a little bit of cool weather. We're thinking about that Thanksgiving, all the great things that are going to happen right there in Post Oak with the fireworks and everything else.
Thanksgiving
I know
evening.
You guys are getting excited about it, aren't you?
We have 150,000 people that get excited about it. They come in and they enjoy the fireworks, which truly is a spectacular
they
event.
are. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I will be there. I'll be looking for you, but I'll hope to see you before that. Once again, Professor, thank you so much for being on the show and taking time for us here in Houston.
I enjoyed it a great deal. You're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you for that. You've been listening to Real Estate Matters with Stuart Title, your host, Bill Nappy. Go to stewart.com/Houston. And oh, yeah, our corporate office is in the same building right there in Uptown. with Bob Ethington and John Breeding. No doubt about it. We'll see you next week. Go to Stewart.com/Houston for all the shows. This is show number 139, I think, but we're getting up there. Until next week, check us out. Real Estate Matters with Stuart Title. One more coordinate. That is Bill Napick Radio Shows. My YouTube channel. You can see these guys after the fact. Bill Napick with a K Radio Shows. My YouTube channel. Until next week, thanks for listening, and we'll see you then.